This is CBC Here and Now.
We understand that what we have to do today and until this inquiry is done must be the Innu way.
After years of promises and preparation, the government begins its inquiry. It will investigate how Innu children were treated and hurt while in the province's care.
Thousands of Memorial students will be returning to classes on Wednesday, following a 2-week labor dispute. That story coming up.
Well, as you can see by the map here behind us, there's some weather on the way. I'm going to break it down for you coming up.
Welcome to Here and Now. We begin tonight with a big headache for some parents on the Avalon Peninsula who rely on school buses. Over the weekend, the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District made an unexpected move. It suspended Gladney's Bus Limited, one of the companies that provides school bus services on the Northeast Avalon. That initially affected 20 schools and about 4,000 students. Some of those children are being taken care of by other bus services, but the rest, about 3,400, still have to find their own way to school and possibly for the rest of the week.
You know, this is an inconvenience, so we did put a target that will be in place no later than next Monday. Appreciating the fact we'll go out and we'll work with other contractors that are here to see what buses they have. They'll need a couple of days to get these buses, making sure that, you know, they have their drivers.
And as for why the buses were taken off the road, Hall says it came down to safety. He won't be specific, but he says the problems were serious enough to justify their action, and that comes as a surprise to the operator.
You know, I kind of feel blindsided. I received a call this morning from somebody that I've never heard of before and told me that this was coming, and then it came, so I'm just trying to deal with it. And I sent it to the legal department to see what's going on.
Leading up to our decision this week, we were working with the contractor. So, you know, things happen, we work, making sure they're trying to get things better. But when we see things not getting better, probably consistent issues that we don't see getting better, and then more issues arising, unfortunately, we get to a point where we say, okay, we're just not there, so we have to put a halt on it.
Meanwhile, a Gladney's school bus was involved in a fatal accident last week when a 69-year-old pedestrian was struck and killed by a bus in Portugal Cove, St. Phillips. It wasn't traveling on a bus route at the time, and there were no students on board. Hall says that incident wasn't the main reason for the board's decision. Well, nearly 6 years after it was announced, the inquiry into the treatment, experiences, and outcomes of Innu in the child protection system began hearings in Labrador today. The proceedings will explore the harm caused by the child protection system. It's expected to be an important step towards healing and self-determination for the Innu Nation. Here Now's Mark Quinn reports.
For a long time, Innu have suffered.
With a few English words, Elder Elizabeth Panashaway summarized the results of colonialism in general and the child protection system in particular. Less than 1% of people in this province live in Innu communities, but 16% of the children in the protection system are Innu. It's had the same result as residential schools: traumatic loss of language and culture that spills out over generations. Part of the inquiry will investigate the deaths of 6 children. Inquiry Co-Commissioner Anastasia Cupie's opening words were translated into English.
And it will be hard to listen to those who were affected by the child protection system. We knew this, what the government has done. Today, we will start on our journey to help ourselves.
Commissioner in Inuk James Igloliorte expects the inquiry will lead to the Innu taking back child protection.
The Innu themselves and the governments recognize that the care of children should belong to your community.
The Innu Nation requested this inquiry into the child protection system, and they're taking a lead role in these hearings. Inquiry Co-Commissioner Mike Devine says everyone should pay attention.
We will educate Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, settlers like me, about the serious harms that the colonial governments of Newfoundland and Canada have inflicted on the Innu. We see the inquiry as one of many steps that need to be taken on the path to reconciliation.
Tomorrow, the inquiry will focus on the history of the Innu. Hearings are expected to continue for several months, and the commissioners are expected to submit a final report in October. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, Ashley is away, and then Heather was supposed to fill in, but Heather was unable to make it today, so they had to bring in the big guns to talk about this Valentine's Day storm. And as you can see the banner there, it says, not a lot of weather love tomorrow. Now that's for the people who don't like to shovel or snowblow, but I know there's a lot of snow lovers in this map. Let's break it down really quickly for you. All this in this, I can never find my hands, there we go. All this in the dark blue, so that's a winter storm watch, and that's going to bring anywhere between 30 to 40 centimeters depending on where you are. It's going to bring high winds, blowing snow. It's not going to be a lot of fun. Now, if we look up here, now this is basically Gander vicinity and Bonavista North. Now this is under a special weather advisory where they'll get between 10 and 15 centimeters up that way along with the high winds, but over a shorter period of time. So now let's move out to the southwest coast. Now you're looking here, now this has been extended. Earlier today it was just Burgeo and Ramea, but as you can see now it's extended out there to the Channel Port Basque area. Now that's a blowing snow advisory. And again, that's going to be about 10 to 15 centimeters. That's going to happen overnight and kick in until tomorrow. And that's going to bring high winds of up to about 100 kilometers an hour. So people just want to advise you. So this is going to be pretty messy, but I have a quick little slide that we'll look at later on in the next hit, but you can see this sort of map where you're looking anywhere between 0 to 2 centimeters of snow. If you find where you live, match it up with the color up top, and that's what we're going to look at. But we're going to break all this down, and we're going to talk about the rest of the province coming up.
Thanks, Jeremy. Well, the tension has subsided. Both sides say it's a fair deal, and normal routines are about to be restored at MUN following a disruptive labor dispute involving the university's faculty association. Here at Now's Terry Roberts brings us the latest.
As of this morning, striking faculty members here at Memorial are back on the payroll with a hefty 12% pay increase over 4 years. And classes and labs for thousands of students are expected to resume as normal on Wednesday.
They're very happy that the strike is over.
The mood at MUNFA strike headquarters was a little lighter today. No more picket duty to coordinate. Just talk about the new tentative agreement, about getting back into the classroom, and a sense of victory following a strike action that lasted more than 2 weeks.
It was a good deal. It was a fair deal. So I think the strike worked. So we got the stuffs we striked for, so we got most of them in the deal.
But even though profs are heading back into the classroom, it could take a while to formalize this deal. MUNFA says it wants to see the new contract document before holding a ratification vote. So it could be early next week before the 850 members of MUNFA have their say.
The agreement represents a fair deal for our faculty.
After 4 straight days of talks, a breakthrough came on Friday, with the university president and provost calling reporters to campus in the early evening. Details of the deal are being shielded for now, but MUNFA says there was give and take on both sides.
It was not all about money. It was about fair democracy, equity, and fairness. And we got a good deal based on those 3 markers.
Despite the disruption, the semester is expected to finish on time.
Students will probably feel nervous, but we urge my colleagues to be flexible and lenient.
We feel strongly that we can get the students through the semester with minimal disruption.
I feel like we're being kind of forgotten as the students. We're being used as bargaining chips, right, for the past couple of weeks.
The Students' Union, meanwhile, was solidly in support of the faculty and have a few demands now that the picket lines are down.
We need academic amnesty for those who couldn't complete courses or tests during this time. We need tuition refunds as fast as possible for the time missed. We are looking to force the administration to also push back drop dates for courses, housing refunds.
We're looking at all of those options.
The University Senate will meet tomorrow to consider those and other questions. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Federal and provincial politicians met today to map out how the money that's part of last week's healthcare deal will be spent in Newfoundland and Labrador. Premier Andrew Furey and his health minister met in Deer Lake with the federal health and intergovernmental affairs ministers. The premier left last week's national healthcare meeting saying that $27 million would be made available to the province right away to help with overburdened emergency rooms. Newfoundland and Labrador would also get an extra $210 million every year for the next 5 years. The premier told reporters today he hopes the provincial and federal governments can work through the agreement in time for this spring's budget.
I see this as it's a healthy offer. It's not one that we wanted. Of course, when it comes to provision of a healthcare system, we would always like more, but there is a real win here for Newfoundland and Labrador, the Atlantic provinces and the territories, and that's in the recognition that the formula has been skewed on a per capita basis towards larger provinces and failing to recognize the complexities of geography, demographics, and economies of scale that are not the reality of a province such as ours.
Well, last week, we brought you the story of a controversy around a bus shelter in downtown St. John's and a decision to remove it. And that raised the ire of housing advocates, city councillors, and the Minister of Housing. Here now's Ryan Cook joins me now to chat about the larger context here and the skyrocketing number of unhoused people in our province. So, Ryan, how many people are sleeping in shelters right now, and how has that number changed in recent months?
Yeah, so the latest numbers that we have suggest there were about 280 people sleeping in shelters last Saturday night, which of course was one of the coldest nights in recent memory. And that's a number that would have been pretty much unheard of even a year ago, but things have been changing very fast. Before the pandemic, it was normal to see around 75 people a night staying in shelters, but numbers that we obtained through access to information requests show it started to climb during COVID, doubling to about 150 people by last summer and nearly doubling again by last fall. Housing Minister John Abbott says the typical trends for homelessness have been completely bucked.
Normally, over time, during the fall and into winter, the demand usually drops off, but it hasn't this year. So we know we have a significant challenge. This is not going away.
Okay, so Ryan, what's the cause of this spike?
Well, the numbers show a direct correlation with the COVID-19 pandemic, and Abbott says it's the result of several things that all happened at once. You had rising rates of mental illness and addictions, delayed health care and rising housing costs, and all that adds up to more people seeking shelter. And Abbott admits the department was caught off guard by that.
There's no doubt that, in retrospect, we should have been more prepared. And obviously we're working with the federal government, CMHC, in terms of what's going on into the larger economy in terms of housing and shelters. And I think we're all, right across the country, talking to my colleagues, I think we're all in the same boat.
So with a dramatic rise like that, where are all of these people staying?
Well, that is the multi-million-dollar question. So around 2019, the province moved away from using private landlords and hotels to house homeless people, and instead they focused on non-profit providers. But those for-profit shelters came roaring back in 2021 and 2022. The use of for-profit shelters went from a low of 12 people in September of 2019 to 157 by this past October. And these shelters are places where there's no mandate to provide anything other than a bed and some meals, and the government fields a steady stream of complaints about health and safety issues, and they've spent about $1.6 million on these shelters in the past 9 months, and that's more than the typical annual budget. And then on top of that, the government has also spent $2.4 million for housing people in hotels over the past 9 months, and the bulk of that came from one hotel in Labrador, where about 30 people are seeking shelter on any given night. We know that the Labrador Inn alone billed the government for $1.3 million over that 9-month period. It's a staggering number that shows how this crisis extends very far beyond St. John's and won't be solved anytime soon.
Okay, Ryan Cook, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Well, charges have now been laid against 2 men involved in a large contraband cigarette seizure. It happened last month in Churchill Falls during a traffic stop. The RCMP seized the vehicle because the driver had a suspended license and no insurance. Police then found more than 109,000 contraband cigarettes inside. The investigation has resulted in charges of unlawful possession of tobacco. Well, now taking a look at sports. For the first time in 10 years, Memorial University hosted the Atlantic University Swimming Championships this past weekend, and the home club came up a little short in their bid to win it all. For the 21st year in a row, yes, 21 straight years, Dalhousie's women's team is the top in Atlantic Canada. Munn's women's team came in 3rd place, just behind Acadia. On the men's side, it was exactly the same, with Dal's men winning for the 23rd time in 24 years, followed by Acadia and Munn. This isn't the end of the swimming season, though. Some athletes will travel to the Canadian University Swimming Championships later this month in British Columbia. Well, some news now for skiers on the West Coast. Marble Mountain is on a 3-day maintenance break. The hill announced it would close for repairs following issues with its Lightning Express lift over the weekend. It's one of 2 lifts that are operational this year and the only one that's going to the top of the mountain. Water got into the electrical system on Saturday, leaving only the smaller lift open.
At the moment, we've got various crews working in various locations. We've hired more individuals than we've ever had for maintenance reasonings. We've inherited some aging infrastructure, but we're a team of go-getters, and we're not taking no for an answer. So there's nobody that wants to be on that mountain more than myself and our team and staff.
Richard Wells says the other lift, the Black Mariah, will open sometime this season. It's been down for 3 years. The hills are set to reopen on Thursday. Well, still with sports on the West Coast, the Western Snow Riders held its first ever snowcross race with a women's division this weekend. 6 women competed in the race with their specialized snowmobiles. A female race has been offered in the past, but not enough women signed up to make it viable. The race was part of the group's Snow Pitch event. It's a fundraiser for trail repairs and other Western Snow Riders activities. And $1 from every ticket sold is being donated to CC Laughlin Elementary's breakfast program.
I'm really excited to get chocolates. I'm really excited to give people love and chocolates.
Valentine's Day is just one sleep away as people all over prepare to spread the love tomorrow. We'll take you to a kindergarten class in Labrador to ask students what the day is all about.
Now, and because of some of these snowfall amounts that you're looking at, Valentine's Day plans could be ruined for a couple people on the Avalon Peninsula and into central Newfoundland. We'll have all the details on the storm that's coming and the weather from the rest of the province coming up.
You've heard the stories.
Never. You've seen it like this where you had your hospital closed.
Now, meet the people.
I was scared. I was crying.
If he gotta go and climb there, he's not gonna.
Next week, we'll bring you to Bonavista, where healthcare closures are hurting everyone, starting Wednesday on Here and Now.
This weather forecast has been brought to you by Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism. Whatever you're up for this winter, discover experience packages at winterupnl.ca.
All right, time for the weather. You haven't done this in a while.
Have not done this in a while.
What a day to come in to be parachuted in to do the weather. So much snow on the way, so much weather on the way.
But before we get to that, tomorrow is Valentine's, and I was making Valentine's this morning, and my daughter wanted me to make sure that you got a Valentine's Day.
Oh.
So it's a little chocolate bar, and it says from and to. I did the writing because her Y's, she's still working on that, but she can get the EVE part. But anyways, we'll get into that, and we just saw it, and it just reminded me because the kids were talking about their chocolate. But tomorrow, people aren't going to be talking about chocolate, they're going to be talking about snow if you live in this part of the province. So there's a number, there's two actually advisories, and there is one snowfall, winter storm warning. So if you look here at the dark blue, this is the winter storm warning. So what's going to happen is these areas are going to get a lot of snow. It's going to start down here in the Burin Peninsula, and it's going to work its way up. And this part is probably going to be, I'm not even going to try to do it because I'm never good at it. But now this up here, Bonavista North in Gander and Grand Falls, Gander and vicinity, not Grand Falls, sorry. That's going to be a blowing snow advisory. So that's when you get high winds and about 5 to 15 centimeters and blowing snow, and it's just for some adverse conditions, so they wanted to remind you of that. And then as we were talking about earlier, Portabasque down into Burgeo and Ramia, they're also going to be under a blowing snow advisory. Now let's see what slide comes up next, because I haven't used this technology in 4 months. All right, we're good. So here's what we're looking at for tonight. Now I did my best to put in these snowfall amounts. As you can see, you're 10 to 15 there in St. John's, 10 centimeters in Marystown, 2 to 4. Now that's like Terra Nova, Clarenville, and the Gander area. 5 centimeters there along Portabasque, Ramia, and into Portabasque. Now as you look, it gets a little bit colder as you move west. They're not going to get snow, and they're not going to get much snow up in St. Anthony either. But just look at those temperatures, minus 14, minus 23. And if you add in the wind chill, it's going to be even colder. So you might, well, if you live in St. Anthony at this time, where you know it's probably going to be cold, so you're going to be bundled up anyways. And it's the same story for Labrador. Now Labrador, as you look, all the skies, there's a little bit of cloud cover, but look at those temperatures. Nothing that they're not used to. Having spent 18 months in Labrador City, I have experienced the minus 30, a little bit warmer than it was a couple weeks ago, but with the wind chill, that could be the mid to late 30s. Minus, I think, 36, minus 37. So frostbite is a risk if you're running out without gloves on, which I often did, which was not very smart. So if I did this correctly, perfect. Here's the future tracker. So if I'll get out of the way there, you can see that storm band coming in. So the blue is the snow, and you can see how it hits the Burin Peninsula first, and then it comes up along the Avalon, and it works its way up towards Bonavista North. And then there's that pink line right here, if you can see it by this hand. So that's the snow rain line. So that is going to bring a mix of snow turning into ice pellets, which could turn into rain, and then could turn back into snow. Now that's going to affect basically like the southern shore, the southern half of the Avalon, and it's sort of going to work its way up. So that is going to impact how much amount or what amount of precipitation we're going to get here on the East Coast. Now the good news is if you live, you can just see it's cloud cover along the rest of the island, cloud cover a little bit there in western Labrador as well. So let's take a look at what we're in for tomorrow. Now, as I was talking about, if you remember that pink line from seconds ago, this is what you're going to see. So the green is rain, and this is sort of the mix of snow, ice pellets, and then we're into the snow. So the snowiest areas, you can see here, Marystown, you're looking at 15 to 25 centimeters tomorrow. This could be one of the hardest hit areas, and then that's going to work its way up. 10 to 15 down in Ferryland. Now, if you look at St. John's, this is a guessing game for me because I'm not a meteorologist. So from what I best can gather from my friends at Environment Canada, and I spoke to a lovely meteorologist named Melissa in Gander, and she helped me out with this. So you're looking at 10 to 15, as much as 25 centimeters of snow. Now that's the St. John's metro area and extending into the Bay Roberts area as well. So it is going to be pretty messy tomorrow. And as you can see, 10 to 20 centimeters there in Bonavista, up there towards the Bonavista Peninsula. Now, as you work your way across the island, you can see there's 10 to 20 there in Terra Nova. Harbour Breton is also going to be affected as well. You're looking 5 centimeters there in Gander up in towards Twillingate. Grand Falls, you'll see a little bit of snow, but not much. And then if you look out here, it just sort of, Burgeo, a little bit of snow, Port aux Basques, but on the west coast, it's going to be -6 and snow covered. And then that sort of continues until the sun comes out in the northern peninsula. And you can see those temperatures, -16, -16 in Cartwright, -16 in Mary's Harbor. A little bit warmer there in Labrador West, but you're looking at sun and clouds, which is not bad. So this is the future tracker Tuesday into Wednesday, because this storm system is all going to end Wednesday, and then it's going to push off, and then it's going to bring in another system later in the week, but that won't bring much accumulation. Now, I had to call in the big guns for this. I requested our old friend Ryan Snodden and asked if he could make one of these maps, because I don't know how to make one. So, as you can see, 30 to 40 centimeters, Marystown, St. Albans, Clarenville, St. John's, possibly Placentia, Trepassey, you're looking at 20 to 30 centimeters. Burgeo, you're on the cusp there. It could be anywhere. It all depends on what happens with the winds, and all depends on what happens with the snow and if it turns to ice pellets or not. But needless to say, a lot of the island, almost all of the island, will see a little bit of snow tomorrow. Some more than others, but I know this province, and I know a lot of people in this province, and while some will be upset that they'll have to shovel or their Valentine's Days plans will be canceled, many people are going to be stoked because they'll get to go skiing, like we just heard about, get to go snowmobiling. They'll get to go snowshoeing, and they'll get to go out and have some fun with their love, or not their love, who's to say. Now, I'm going to have a long-term forecast and probably more nonsense coming up. Carolyn?
Thanks, Jeremy. And it's a good reason to stay cozy indoors as well. Well, florists everywhere are gearing up for Valentine's Day tomorrow, but one florist in St. John says she has her work cut out for her with the stormy weather that Jeremy mentioned is on the way. And it's not the first time she's had to face a snowy Valentine's.
So tomorrow's a Valentine's Day, and I would say it's the busiest day of the year. Definitely for our industry. Everybody's working really, really hard, and it's kind of a last-minute purchase. For our small shop, it's because we sell online, a little bit easier. So people just can sit on a couch and pick what they want and come in, and it's ready, good to go. When it comes to Valentine, it is a nice boost through the year, but not every time it works out. Last year, snowstorm, we'll see how it goes here. I made decision to prepare for snowstorm just in case, based on last year's experience. This year we probably have a snowstorm, so it just makes me work harder to be prepared for those last minute shoppers, and we are prepared. So I'm calm, I'm happy. It's gonna be fine.
And for those last-minute shoppers, Christina says her shop will be open tomorrow, and 10% of all online sales will go towards the Red Cross in Ukraine. Well, tomorrow, students at Peacock Primary School in Happy Valley Goose Bay will be spreading the love as they trade Valentines with their friends. And for a lesson in love, we swung by the school to learn what Valentine's Day means to the kindergarten class.
Giving presents to my mom. I'm gonna make Lillian a gift. Spread love, eating treats. I'm really excited to get chocolates. I'm really excited to give people love and chocolates. I love all my family and friends. I love my family and friends. Aiden. Charlotte. Nana Papa.
Ooh, and who do you love in your family?
Nana and Papa. My baby sister and my family. My Nana and my baby cousin. My sister, mom, and dad. My sister and my mom and dad. Being nice to your family and friends. I love them and I play with them. Being kind. Making presents. Yeah. Give them kisses and hugs. By helping people. Giving them hugs. Giving them time to clean and then go hang out. You always hug them when they want a hug. cheer them up, play with them and give them big hugs. Make cards for them and be nice. Being nice and kind. And draw a picture for them. Playing with every bit of this friends, not even one person. Every of this class, every of the other classes, and everyone in the school. Oh, that's good. It's gonna be a secret. I can tell you lots of chocolates and a new toy. No way. Yes way. Oh, I can't wait. But I'm definitely gonna get you a card though, I could tell you that. Yeah.
If one of those residents happen to have a heart attack and the ambulance is not there and the hospital is not there to provide instant care, possibly that person's going to die.
Some big concerns coming out of Belle Island tonight from firefighters who say life and safety are at risk because of the current healthcare situation. That story is next. Well, some firefighters on Bell Island are raising concerns about emergency medical services there. The volunteer fire department recently had to respond to 3 emergency medical calls because ambulances were not available. And this comes less than a month after legislation deemed private ambulance operators essential and strikers return to work. Terry King is a town councillor and the fire captain with the Wabana Fire Department and joins us now from Bell Island. So can you tell us what's been happening over there and explain what your concerns are?
Well, Carolyn, in the past month or so, or a little over a month, the fire department has been left basically holding the bag, whereby our hospital has been understaffed and closed, as it is in other areas of the province. And being from Bell Island and having the isolation factor, we're dealing with a situation where there's 2 ambulances there, but we're after finding now on a couple of occasions there's only 1 crew. And the way it's set up is that if the hospital is closed because there's no doctors or nursing staff available at the time, the ambulance ends up going in and triaging the patient in the parking lot of the hospital. And then from there they go directly to St. John's to either Health Science or wherever they're going to be directed. And us being a non-medical transport fire department, it puts us in a hard predicament because there's been a couple of occasions now where we had to respond to calls and there was no other ambulance available. So if it had been a very serious case, we wouldn't have been able to transport this patient safely to anywhere, basically, because given the fact the hospital would have been closed and there's no other ambulance and we got no way to transport, that person would have been basically left in their own homes or on the side of the road, wherever the accident or incident may have happened. And we don't want to be put in that corner. In a small community now, it's very hard to get volunteers for a lot of organizations. And when you get a good group of guys that are in the volunteer fire department, you're putting them at their own self at risk sometimes, and you're making them uncomfortable because it's not every firefighter wants to be a medic.
And what's your understanding of why the ambulances weren't available during those emergencies?
Well, staffing, I would say. The ambulance service is ran from Clarenville, from Fiore's ambulance service, and I guess he doesn't have the staff to be putting in these places. And the thing is, if the funding is there for 2 ambulances, there should be 4 crews available at all times. And I'm not here to run down the crews that are from Bell Island that are working there. Like, they're gone to their maximum. They can't do no more than they're doing. But it puts us as a volunteer fire department in a very hard spot. Like, we got residents that live on Bell Island who work on the ambulance, and, they punch long hours the same as everybody else. But, they're doing their job. They're going to St. John's with the patients they're picking up. But, the ambulance operator is basically not doing what he should be doing and providing a secondary crew.
What do you think should happen here to fix this?
Well, from my perspective as a first responder for the last 30 plus years, if we never had a fire truck, we wouldn't be able to go to a fire call. So I don't know how an ambulance provider is expected to do a service that he's paid for if he doesn't have the proper crew to operate the vehicles. So maybe it's time for our MHA, our minister, and our local town council to sit down and try to come up with a better solution. That in the event of what happens to us if it's a stormy night and that 1 ambulance ends up getting caught in St. John's, having to go to Portugal Cove.
You mentioned that it's hard to get volunteer firefighters. What is your biggest fear here if nothing changes? What could potentially happen if your firefighters end up responding to a more serious medical call?
Well, today, I'm sure, as everyone in Newfoundland is aware, a lot of our first responders in the province are suffering from PTSD and stuff. And, there's a lot of younger and middle-aged responders that are getting involved. And are they really cut out to be an ambulance driver when they've signed up to be a volunteer firefighter? You're putting them in a different category that they're probably not ready for.
And what about the people, the residents on Bell Island? What are your concerns for them if nothing changes?
Well, eventually your luck will run out. And what's going to happen is we're going to be faced with a scenario of a bad ATV accident, a serious house fire, a bad motor vehicle accident, Or still again, what about we're in an aging population community, so if one of those residents happen to have a heart attack and the ambulance is not there and the hospital is not there to provide instant care, that possibly that person's going to die in their own residence.
All right, Terry King, thank you so much for your time today and for telling us about your concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Coming up, the needle and the fundraising done. We'll tell you about a tattoo studio in St. John's that's helping support cancer patients. For the first time since 2020, Troublebound Studio in St. John's held its tattoo fundraiser over the weekend. The shop does tattoos of cancer ribbons, and all the money raised goes towards supporting cancer patients. More than 30 people got tattoos on Saturday, and Here Now's Henrika Wilhelm was there.
Today we are hosting our 11th annual $100 cancer ribbon fundraiser for Daffodil Place. So basically the concept is very simple. We try to tattoo as many people as possible to raise money for Daffodil Place. It falls on my brother's birthday. I lost my brother 13 years ago to glioblastoma, which is a brain cancer. It's a way of celebrating his life, you know, by giving other people better opportunities to fight. It's an incredibly cathartic day. You know, we get all kinds of incredible stories. Some of them are really sad, some of them are unbelievably moving, some of them are incredibly inspirational.
I've got a few tattoos from here, and I heard their notice about they're having the fundraiser again this year, and so I wanted to get a second tattoo. The first one was the pink breast cancer tattoo I got back in 2010, and now that it's back in my bone where it's a metastasized cancer, I wanted to get the metastasized ribbon. The green represents triumph of spring over summer, life over death. The teal symbolizes healing and spirituality, and the thin pink ribbon overlay signifies the metastatic cancer that originated in the breast. When I first was diagnosed, of course, I was a little bit angry and frustrated, but it's been a few years now, because it's been 2019 and I'm doing really well. So I said, you know, rather than be angry about cancer, I am just going to embrace it. So that's what I said. I'm coming to embrace my cancer, and to get the tattoo to, you know, just to signify that.
So tattoos in themselves are a cathartic process for a lot of people. They bring out a lot of emotions, they bring out stress, they can bring out trauma. So like getting to hear her and how strong and how powerful her message is as far as moving forward no matter what the situation, it just pulls at your heart.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he sees a pattern after 3 aerial objects were shot down over North America over the weekend.
Obviously, there is some sort of pattern in there. The fact that we are seeing this in a significant degree over the past week is a cause for interest and close attention, which is exactly what we're doing.
Trudeau says both Canada and the U.S. are taking steps to defend North American territory. Officials have not publicly identified the objects. One of them was shot down over Alaska on Friday, and then on Saturday, Trudeau ordered a second object over Yukon to be taken down. On Sunday, the U.S. shot down a third aerial object near Lake Huron. Earlier this month, a suspected Chinese spy balloon drifted over Canada and across the U.S. before it was shot down off the Carolina coast. Well, the CBC's Briar Stewart was there on Friday when a woman was rescued from the quake rubble in southeastern Turkey. Today, she brings us the story of the 37-year-old recovering from the ordeal of being trapped under her apartment building for days.
Inside this hospital room, we meet Özlem Ayna and her mother Gülten. The 37-year-old is recovering after spending more than 100 hours trapped underneath all of this.
Can you tell me about the moment you heard the rescuers looking for you?
It was incredible, she says. He told me to hold his hand. So I squeezed his hand so hard, he told me, "Calm down, we will save you." When the 7.8 magnitude earthquake violently struck southeast Turkey, she woke up to a wardrobe falling on top of her and the building crashing down around her first-floor apartment. In the debris outside, her keepsake box, which was thrown out of her room. I was screaming so loud, she said, my voice went hoarse, so sometimes I lost hope. Shaking uncontrollably from the cold, her mouth was so dry she couldn't swallow. She could hear the rescuers, but they couldn't hear her. She started banging on the stone and concrete, and this is when they knew she was there, and they worked for hours to reach her. A team from Burnaby, BC helped by providing equipment like a camera to find her exact location.
What about that moment when they finally pulled you out of that building?
When they pulled me out, I look at their eyes. They were almost crying.
On the ground, the crowd cheered, but Özlem's mother still didn't believe her daughter was alive until she saw her in the hospital.
Kızım yeniden doğdu, bebeğim.
My daughter was born again, she said. Özlem is bruised and has some kidney damage from being so dehydrated.
Zaten böbrek fonksiyonlarını iyice kaybetmiş olacaktı.
If they didn't save her in the next couple of hours, we'd think she could have lost all of her kidney function, says the nurse, but she's doing well. Her family is so happy, they feel grateful for everyone.
Thank you.
Özlem is thankful for her rescuers, but describes a feeling of broken happiness. 80% of those living in her building were killed. She was only one of a few to survive. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Diyarbakir, Turkey.
Well, here's something to make you smile. These guys at Dixie H Farm in Goulds were soaking up the sun today ahead of the storm tomorrow. The littlest ones, oh my goodness, were only born a month ago, so you could say this winter was in like a lamb.
But will it go out like a lion? How bad will this latest storm be? I'll have all the weather details and more terrible jokes after the break.
Okay, so time for a look at the long range, and I guess we need to settle in for this snow for a little bit, for a couple of days anyways.
So basically what's going to happen for most of the people on that weather map there behind us, you're going to see the snow start like midnight tonight, early tomorrow morning, and it's going to run until Wednesday. Now parts of the province, like down in Burgeo, Portabask, you're only going to get it up until tomorrow. But we'll take a quick closer look at that. As you can see that map, we've already seen it 3 or 4 times tonight. So if you haven't memorized this, there will not be an examination. So if we go into the next one, this is the snowfall amounts map. Again, you've seen this a couple times. So you can, I posted this on Twitter. If anybody uses social media still, you can take a look at it. But there you can see the different kind of bands and the different kind of weather systems that you can expect. The problem area of knowing between 30 and 40 is weather on the eastern part here, the southern shore, St. John's, Placentia areas. If that turns to snow pellets and then turns to rain and then turns back to snow, that could impact how much. But if it stays cold enough, those amounts will be pretty high. So it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag there across the island. So, have I pressed the wrong button? There we go. So let's just take, let's just put all of this behind us and let's look towards Wednesday, because Wednesday is going to be a lovely day. As you can see, there's a lot of sun icons, a fair bit of cloud, a little bit of snow in central and a little bit in Labrador West, but it's nothing really to get worried about and nothing to be upset about. The temperatures are also going to warm up. As you can see, it's been pretty cold today, and it'll be pretty cold tomorrow as well. But then the warmer temperatures will come, the sun will come out, and there will be a bit of rain in the eastern part of the island coming up on Thursday and Friday. But get used to the sun, or enjoy the sun while it lasts, because like with all good things, it'll go away. Now let's just take a quick look at this future tracker here. This is going to be Wednesday at 9 p.m. as you can see it. A little bit of cloud cover, and then the precipitation, Labrador City, that's going to start to move its way across. Let's see if it moves like it's supposed to. There you go. So the snow will come in, then there's the mix, and then there's the green. That's the rain that I was talking about coming in on Thursday. We're going to let that run another time just so we can have a quick look at it. Now let's just take a quick look at the 5 days. As I said, get used to the sun because it's going to go away for a while. As you can see, all across the province, you'll see the sun icon a few times, but basically this is what we're looking at for the next week. Little bit of snow mixed with rain there on Thursday. I'm looking the wrong way. I'll get it together sooner or later. Now, if we move our way, I'm going to get out of the way. And if we move into central and western Newfoundland, you can see Wednesday the sun will come out in western Newfoundland for a bit. But a lot of snow, mix of snow and rain there Thursday, Friday, Thursday in central, the same thing as well. And as we move into Labrador, you'll see a bit more of the sun there on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then it's going to be the same sort of thing. Now, I was able to actually figure this out, so I do believe I have a picture, but I'm going to press the button and see what happens. Oh, yes. So this is actually, Beverly Ann Party sent this picture in, and she actually titled it The Calm Before the Storm. This is Culls Harbour there in central Newfoundland across the water from Traytown. So it's a beautiful picture of what it looked like just this morning, and then it's all going to change tomorrow.
Yep, a lot more snow will be down there by tomorrow or by Wednesday.
Yeah, so if you're living in the storm-affected areas and you have plans for Valentine's Day, they're probably going to be canceled. But I know a lot of restaurants have already moved events back to Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to get around. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone.